Hello and welcome to episode 5. This is the second half of December in our 2019-2020 season review. There was so much decent action in December. This is probably the best half of it, I think. We're mentioning the Grade 2s, Grade 1s, Grade 3s, the graded races, and a few of the notable other races. Probably in the last episode, we could have chucked in the fact that Monkfish won a hurdle over 2 mile 7, the fact that Shishkin fell at Newbury, the fact that Fernie Hollow was a runner-up in a bumper first time up, but hey ho, they didn't have graded status, so we didn't. The only notable other that we won't be mentioning is Fernie Hollow again, who became runner-up on the 28th of December in another bumper. Away from that, we're just going to get straight into the big boy racing, and it really does ramp up in this episode. There's some seriously big weekends coming up. Obviously, the Christmas period, there's loads of racing in Ireland, loads of racing over here. This is where I was talking about those graded races in the first half, that although they're Grade 2 status, there may be some targets, maybe a little bit later on that month, that horses are being eyeing up for. Who knows? But without further ado, we'll kick on with the Ascot weekend. So it's the Long Walk Hurdle weekend. They race the Friday, the Saturday. Big Christmas, piss up for loads of people, I think, at Ascot. Angel's Breath won the Noel Novices Chase on the Friday. I think he sustained a leg injury actually after the race, after the line. That's quite a serious injury. They almost lost him. He won't be back this season. Hopefully he'll be back racing again next time if they do get him back to the racecourse. But that was a seriously impressive performance, but no point dwelling on that. Then there was a really good bumper as well. I mean, this isn't the order the races went in, but we'll talk about it in this order. Israel Champ won the listed bumper there. I thought that was a pretty good race. I thought it was quite a nice performance. What did you make of that, Darryl?
Yeah, I thought it was a nice performance. I think he's a really nice horse going forward. Champion bumper was obviously a step too far next time, but at this point in time, I really thought he, I tell you what, I actually thought that he wants further than 2 miles after this race. I think he's going to be a middle distance 3 miles next year. But I really liked the performance, really gutsy, just determined, just kept on finding for pressure. Just a really nice performance. And I think I like the form line through this as well. Like the Stoner's Choice, Kid Commando, nice horse, Fantasy Honeyballs, just been down his yard. They think quite a bit of him going forward. So there was a lot to like about this particular performance, especially in that deep ground at Ascot. It was dire conditions that weekend as well. He's just real gutsy horse. Yeah, I liked it quite a bit.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think that is a real deep bumper, not just every year. I mean, it is a pretty solid bumper every year anyway, but I do think particularly last year. It's good that you mentioned about the deep ground there, because I said this is the Long Walk Hurdle weekend. Emma Lavelle chose not to run Paisley Park. She walked the course. She felt there might have been a bit of false ground out there. So that goes to show you how severe the ground was, the fact that some trainers were putting horses out. Now, that's potentially precautionary given the fact that it was Paisley Park, but it was real testing conditions. Even in there, we mentioned Kid Commando, or you've mentioned Kid Commando, you've seen him at Anthony Honeyballs. Butte, Montana for Fergal O'Brien was way back in this field. I know they thought that was the best bumper horse they had, and they really like that for a horse going forward this season. So even the entire field there, I think you can look at, and it's a pretty decent race to keep in your notebooks for this season ahead. But I mean, at the time, I wasn't thinking any of these are going to go and win at Cheltenham. I kind of half thought actually Israel Champ, you know what, that's probably one of the best of the British, but it's just bumper, innit? One of the Irish wins it. But also, that race was interesting because Time Flies By, who had won at Cheltenham in bad, boggy ground, I thought listed bumper, go and pick that up. I would have had him favourite for the race, to be honest. Decided to take his hand over hurdles for the first time. Now, you touched on this in the last episode. Grand Sonsey went chasing for that Henry VIII Novices Chase. Big trainers will do this with their horses that they want to get some experience into. They normally do it with horses they like quite a lot, because if you're going to lose your maiden status, why not do it in a graded race, even though they're probably not ready for it. It was only a 4-runner event, the Kennelgate Novices Hurdle. Me and you were very split on our opinions on this, Darryl. Do you know what? I don't even think we spoke before this weekend about this. We were probably too busy with life, Christmas shopping and shenanigans, but we did have a difference of opinion in this. Most of the time you were right, but I was right this time. I could not believe the price of Master Debonair. The horse that, I might as well mention him, you'll be talking about in a second, Ribble Valley. Was he superior on ratings? Has been hacking up on the Northern Circuit, but I really do think that the Northern Circuit is such a level down in terms of comparison. Even the ratings and stuff they achieve, you'll get Southern Raiders that will go up and win these Northern handicaps. Same as you get the Irish horses coming over and nicking all our handicaps over here. I just felt that in this particular race, it was a match between that pair. I probably would have made Master Debonair favourite, or I would have definitely made him favourite. Just the way the prices were, I had to get excited about Master Debonair. I did think, well, do you know what? I'm getting excited here, but I think he's going to win this. Maybe he could be an interesting one for the Supreme. The fact that he won so well in this race, I did start getting a little bit excited about the Supreme. Probably stupidly, because like you say, it was really, really bad ground. McFabulous, worth probably mentioning it in case anyone watching this before Chepstow, he's going to go for the Persian War. He was well beaten all the way back in here, but I was impressed with Master Debonair. I kind of expected it, but I just got really excited after this, thinking he could be a live wire for the Supreme. How did you really feel after the race, Darryl?
A bit deflated, really. I thought Rib was going to be a bit better than what he's shown now. I thought conditions were in his favour at the time. Master Debonair had to give him £3. He was rated £6 inferior. There's £9 there. Time Fly By was making his hurdles debut, and I thought McFabulous didn't really want dire conditions like that, as he's shown the next twice, because he won the next twice, I think. A bit disappointed to see him beaten so far. Well, so far out, really. I'm happy to put a line through that. I know you're going to say, "Oh, that's absolute nonsense," but I do get your angle with the Northern and Southern. It's completely true. You see it with Sam Spinner now and again, but I do think they produce decent horse up there now and again. And Ribble Valley, for me, I think he's got plenty more to come. I don't think that was his true running. I don't know why. I can't put my finger on it just yet. But, he was a good winner on soft ground the time before. Maybe it was just dead, tacky ground. I don't know. Look, Master Debonair made all from the front. And in those sort of conditions, you do sort of have a little bit of an advantage from the front end. It's very difficult to make up ground. I'm happy to put a line through that. Finished far enough clear of Time Flies By. And that horse is not, he's not the worst horse. I'm happy to put a line through River Valley there. I don't think he gave his running, but I was really deflated with that performance afterwards, because I thought I suppose I fell into the trap of thinking he was a proper decent horse. And I still do think he could be a decent horse. It's just maybe I underplayed the Northern Southern factor on that particular day, but Master Debonair was really, really impressive there.
Yeah, I think as well. I was just mad keen on Master Debonair for there, because he'd gone and won another hurdle before that in November at Ascot, which he hacked up in. And I just thought he's got the Ascot experience. And I've been burnt so many times in the past. Back in the good old days when I used to play on the flat, the amount of horses that just don't like Ascot, there's a dip and they just don't get on with it. I think that the same thing happens with horses the first time they sometimes run at Ascot. You get a bit of a sighter to think, not everyone likes going around there. There are certain horses that do seem to do quite well there. And I think it probably maybe what's the word I'm looking for? It makes their performance, it exaggerates is what I'm looking for. I think it maybe makes him look a much better horse than he actually is, given the fact that around Ascot and others didn't do it. But yeah, I was genuinely looking at thinking, I actually think he could be a Supreme horse. As it got nearer to Cheltenham and the comments from the yard were coming out, they weren't specifically driven at me, but it felt like they were just saying, Dave, he ain't winning the Supreme, stop it, mate. I was sticking 3 bets on him left, right and centre. I think in the end, I'm not even joking, I think I had about 80 quid on him at 33s and 3 bets at one point. Well, I say at one point I left him in there. You can't cash those bad boys out. But anyhow, let's not dwell on that, because the racing is good in December. It's not just about Master Debonair versus Rib. Obviously, the long walk hurdle on the Saturday. Now, because of the ground, the racing wasn't as exciting as potentially it could be. The long walk hurdle is the be all and end all for that weekend's racing for me in terms of real class stuff. It is a Grade 1 event. The fact there was no Paisley's Park there, it was a bit disappointing to say the least, but it was quite nice in the fact that the World's End goes and gets to win the long walk hurdle. I don't think anyone was thinking that he's going to be going and winning after, but it was the fact that Lamy Surge was in it. And how many times have we seen Lamy Surge travel and just not do it? Nico de Boinville was riding Lamy Surge. Obviously, normally it's Darryl who knows a little bit better. It was only a small field. I can't remember exactly what the prices were the night before, but I think Lamy Surge was put in his favour. I think people might have even backed him. Basically, long story short, it was a match for me between the World's End and Lamy Surge. Because everyone was backing Lamy Surge, or because he was a short enough price, we could have a little bet on the World's End. I will admit, even though I know that he travels and doesn't find a lot, he's a bit of a rogue, I thought he was going to piss this, and he just dropped tools again. So it was an opportunity to have a little bit of a bet. It wasn't any consideration for me, as it normally would be, that this is going to be any sort of a stairs hurdle performance. And then I think there was a couple of handicaps as well in there that were okay. It's Not So Sleepy was well in. I didn't back that. I was told to back it. Didn't. Thought I knew better. Just one of those weekends where maybe could have been better in other years, but I don't know. Anything you want to add to the long distance hurdle or long walk?
Not really. I mean, the race is notoriously well known for producing the States hurdle winner, but I mean, Christ, the World's End winner. It was just a poor race. I remember thinking, Christ, this is crap on the day. But yeah, no, I haven't really got much to add to it, to be honest with you. I'm not really a massive fan of those small field, the small field listed or graded handicaps. But it don't really excite me in the 3 mile division, to be honest with you, unless we're looking at the States hurdle at Cheltenham. So.
That's it. And that's the thing with the race. It was just missing Paisley Park. It would have been nice if Paisley Park was in there, but hey ho, he wasn't. I did slightly think, I wasn't particularly worried about it because Emma Lavelle had already said at the beginning of the season she was going to be keeping Paisley Park to go to Punchestown. That was always the aim. Run at Cheltenham, go to Punchestown. Didn't do it the previous season, but they were thinking with that in mind. I just looked at it thinking, it's just an excuse in it to just don't run him at Ascot. Don't give him too hard a season. Not having any thoughts towards Cheltenham, thinking whether it would affect his preparation or anything. Not saying that it did, but at that time I wasn't particularly worried about it. I think looking back a little bit now, maybe she should have run him regardless of the ground. But
I think it probably did affect his preparation. I think he's a horse that improves with running. Improves with
it was obviously an anomaly in the stayers, wasn't it? It was a heart defect, wasn't it? So that's why she should have run him, I think.
I think she should have run him.
I guess
anyway,
but that's before Christmas, so we've all had a few bevies, we've had a few winners there. Master Debonair's gone in, the World's End's gone in, we've tucked into our turkey. Now it's time to enjoy the Boxing Day fiasco that was Kempton. Oh, mate. Kempton every year, I like going to it. I normally do pretty well at Kempton. I will admit this year I was quite a way off on quite a few races. So where better to start than the King George? Because I promised people that this is decent racing. We've been talking about the World's End and Master Debonair for far too long. Flanders Oboe, back-to-back winner of the King George, and my God, was he impressive. Now, I backed Footpad for this race after he won on his reappearance. I thought Kempton was sitting down to the ground. I backed him at 33s. I thought I was onto a right touch. I thought he'd be there or thereabouts. He was pants. I didn't fancy Surname to win the race. I could see why he was the price that he was, but I was just annoyed. If Footpad hadn't come over, I might have backed Flanders Oboe. But anyway, Flanders Oboe was a very impressive King George winner. Him winning there didn't make me think he was going to win at Cheltenham. It made me start to think the Surname Altior race, like how much of an effect that probably did have on Surname, and then thinking literally how much of an effect it's probably had on Altior as well. So in some sad little way, I thought Surname getting stuffed in the King George was golden for my Altior bet in the Queen Mother Champion chase, because the longer he's delayed, the less likely it is he's going to go for some stupid Gold Cup ambition, because he was never going to go for a Ryanair. But yeah, I thought, it was more just like, for God's sake, why have I not backed Flanders over? I thought it was real good. What did you make of it?
I'll tell you what I thought initially, and then I'll tell you what I thought after the race. So initially, I thought Lost in Translation is 100% the horse to be on, right? But clearly, Lost in Translation, just that. Looking back now, the sharp Kempton track for Lost in Translation, it's just not him for him. I mean, at the time of it, I thought that he's got the speed to win a JLT. It's just the track. He just didn't look like he handled the track. I know they said he had a breathing problem after that. And he just didn't look himself anyway. But I don't think the track suited him. He was losing a little bit of ground in fence. And then when Flanders Oboe won 11-2, I thought, how the heck has last year's King George winner gone off at 11-2? Like, how was everybody going back
in a 5-runner race?
There was not a chance on earth I could have Surname or Cyrenaic. I couldn't have it because I kept banging this drum all last season. He was rated 177 or whatever at Ascot, on his ground over that trip, not over 3 miles at Kempton, completely different. And some people just need to realise horses for courses and trips are so important to horses and all the other little factors. But so I couldn't have Surname. And then Footpad was a bit of an unknown. ASO and his supporters, but again, I mean, went off at 28-1. Just, I mean, you always look at that Ryanair performance from ASO, don't you, and think he could do something. He could do something, but. And then after the race, reviewing it, I thought, what a load of crap that race was. That has to be one of the worst King Georges we've ever seen. Lost in translation, pulled up. Surname was absolutely blown out from Altior and wasn't a proven stayer over 3 miles. Footpad is completely gone at the game, and ASO is at 28-1. I mean, come on, that is a load of crap. And then people supporting him for Cheltenham, and I thought, what are you doing?
But he did win it by 21 lengths, and he didn't even have to be ridden.
And do you know what? That tells you how crap the race is, right? If any horse is winning a race by 28 lengths or 21 lengths or whatever it was, right, you have to question the quality of that race. And I'm not being funny, the time weren't great either. So it's like, you know, you've got to look at the race as a whole. If anything is winning, and this goes for any race going forward, anything wins a race by 21 lengths, immediately question it, because everybody else is going to next time overbet that horse and say that horse won by 20 lengths next time. Everyone can see it won by 20 lengths, but can you see why it won by 20 lengths? And that is the key. Have a look at why it won by 21 lengths, and I'll tell you why now. It's because the race was absolute crap. That's it. Well, this was built up. Do you remember? This was built up to be one of the races of the season before all the defectors started coming out. But yeah, look, Clan's been there. He's done it, and he handles the track really well. I'm not saying he would not have won the race if there were better horses in there, or the horses like Surname were fully wound up to go, or a loss in translation would have handled the track better. I'm not saying he wouldn't have won it, but he wouldn't have won it by 21 lengths if they were. So on that basis alone, he's going to be overbet next time out, and you're probably losing any value in any sort of price. So food for thought, Dave.
I know. But, and I know it's easy to say in hindsight after, but regardless of how pants the race has been, like you were saying about Surname, horses for courses, all that sort of stuff, please tell me, like me, even though I was on Footpad, I mean, you can back more than one horse in the race, can't you? So you felt a bit sad that he's gone off at 11-2 and we've let him go off at 11-2. It's stupid.
Yeah, absolutely right. He should have been favourite for the race. He should have been. Really, he should have been favourite for the race.
So, for lessons learned for the 2020-21 season, where we talked about Clanders over winning over to Darren Royal, he needs to run first time out, and I was fairly impressed. He'll go to Haydock this year for the Betfair Chase, as he did the third. He won it. Maybe with the King George, it happened before. The year before when Clanders over won it, the recency bias with waiting patiently, all the hype around him, all that sort of stuff, it's very easy to look past probably a more obvious or more likely winner. It gets excited, and because it's busy and all that sort of stuff, I just feel like for the King George, my top takeout from the last, it was my top takeout 2 years ago, and I ballsed it up this year, didn't listen to my own advice. But please just look at the preparation for some of the bigger horses and really think to yourself, is this like nice, ideal preparation going in there? Because Lost in Translation going in there was fine. Like you say, he just didn't handle it there. To be fair, Robbie Power could have pulled him up after 2 flights. He just looked like he wasn't going. So we know that wasn't his true running. But like I say, when you reflect on the Surname Altior race, it's easy to do it now. But that obviously took a lot out of him. And there was no reason why it wouldn't have done. We could have probably thought about that. Clanders Over had already won at Kempton. Clanders Over had a nice comeback. We shouldn't be letting him go off at those prices. So I've definitely learned from that. Back Clanders Over for the King George is my advice.
That's not what you take from it. What you take from the race is that look for elsewhere next time, because Clanders Obo is going to be overbet on what he did this year.
Mate, but he should be. But when he goes and runs pants in the Betfair Chase, which he will inevitably do, and then he'll come on for that run. Like if he, regardless of who the lineup's going to be, I would imagine this year would probably be a weaker King George. I think, even if someone like Champ goes there, I just think if Clanders Obo was 4 or 5 to 1 on the day, you've got to back him. I don't even know what price he is now. I bet he's probably 4 or 5 to 1 now, and he's 7-2.
Okay. I mean,
be 8.
Yeah, I'll see. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll do a King George video if you want. but a couple of days before Christmas, we'll do a King George video, and you can say this then. Yeah.
Well, that's what all I think with it is there's certain races. Like, I mean, it'll be the same as when we go on to this next one as well, the Christmas hurdle. I know I like to analyse a lot of stuff, but I do like to be fairly blunt with the point when I'm looking at things myself. Like, I don't like to dwell on stuff too much. I don't like to overthink it. I do in my general life. I overthink everything, but when it comes to the horse racing, I'm more successful by just not necessarily going with gut, but keeping things simple. Being a bit harsh on some horses sometimes because I think you need to be, but forgiving them if you've been proven wrong, all that sort of stuff. Races like the King George this year, I think you just really need to look at every horse, actually spend the time to go back through and see what they've done, even have a look at some of their bits from the previous season, just maybe give a bit more credit than maybe I gave them this year. Christmas hurdle, typically, back in the good old days when 14 used to come over for it was just easy, wasn't it? You just back 14. But this year's Christmas hurdle, and obviously last year with Bouverdere getting beat by Verdana Blue, no, we're not saying that we could have predicted Verdana Blue would win it, but I did put it in my write-up that the price that she was the only likely danger. It's the sort of thing where you could have a cover bet on something like that. I didn't really give the Christmas hurdle any real thought this year. Well, the respect it probably deserved. I didn't go back and keep watching about Epitante. I didn't listen to Daryl. I was probably doing it to be stubborn. So go on, Daryl. Talk about the Christmas hurdle.
Well, she just did what I thought she was going to do. No, look, she was 6-1. She was 6-1 for this race. Literally the night before, 6-1. I could not believe my eyes. She was 6-1. Absolute good thing at Kempton. I thought she was, and she won by 5 lengths. Look, I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet. I'm just saying this race in particular, with the likes of Bouverdere winning it in the past, and that is a good indicator towards Cheltenham, towards the champion hurdle. And she was 6-1 for this race, and she was 28-1. She was 28-1 for the champion hurdle at the same time for this race. So my advice to you was to back Epitante. She's a good thing at Kempton at 6-1, and back her for the champion hurdle at 28 or 25. I think it was 28 with William Hill, saying 25 elsewhere. Straight after this race, she went down to 4-1, I think, joint fab or something. So I loved the performance. I thought Kempton would really suit her. Sharp track. She's got a lovely turn of foot. There's not a lot not to like about her. She's impressive. She travels well. I mean, there was no real negatives for her at this particular point to back her anti-post for Cheltenham, other than the one thing that a lot of people clutched to was her performance in the Mares Novice last year. But I looked at that race time and time again with the first-time headgear, etc., and I thought there was plenty of excuses there. And she's just gone on. I mean, I think she's excellent. I think she's fantastic.
Bollocks is all I can say, because you were spot on with it. And I like to have a few darts at plenty of races. Champion hurdle market was wide open. You could, especially the price we talk about there. This is where lots of people I've had digs before where people still have about 20 horses in a race. I have never got quite that high, but like Supreme, I can't remember what it was this year. I think maybe 8 or 9 I was up to this year. But when you're talking about something like Epitante at 25s, you talk about like Sharjahs at 40s, you talk about Saudias at 33s. We're not talking I'm backing 3 or 4 horses at 3-1 each here. We're talking big price horses. If you're backing big priced horses, you can afford to get away with a few of them. I didn't listen to your advice. I didn't back Epitante. I don't know. It happens to all of us. There's just certain horses that I don't know. Like it's really bad to say out. I just hate them for no apparent reason. It's like people, isn't it? You'll work with someone, you'll meet someone that they'll walk over to you and you'll just think, oh, I'll just fucking fall over and die or something. Not to the horse, I'm saying the person that's walking towards me. Just certain horses you can't get on with. And to be honest with you, it's gonna pain me for ages. I was very similar with Altior after he won his novice campaign, after he beat Maputo. We won't bring Maputo into a Christmas special, but yeah, I should have listened to advice. I should have done it. There's no place for sentiment when it comes to making money on horses, but well, you were right. But over in Ireland on that, oh no, we got Countess Donovan's chase. We'll do that. Slate House. Danny Whizbang. I knew he'd be a prize. I did expect him after winning at Newbury that this would be the sort of race for him. Master Tommy Tucker obviously fell in here. I was definitely disappointed that it was Slate House and Black Op battling out for the finish. I know when we look back a couple of years ago with them being like maybe potential supreme horses and Black Op running so well in a Ballymore, that maybe I shouldn't be saying it so bad, but I think they've sort of both been proving their level. So again, like with some of the other trials, I was a bit disappointed that they were battling out the finish, and obviously Pocket Talk, because Danny Whizbang I thought was there or thereabouts. And given that these two have battled it out, why was he not there at the finish? What did you make of the Slate House victory?
Yeah, it's that performance was all right. I like the way he battled back at the finish. He showed a bit of guts and determination. He's quite a nice horse, isn't he, Slate House? I've got a feeling it's a bit of a road, though. I don't know if he puts it all in all of the time. I get the feeling that if he doesn't fancy it, he just not bother. But on his day, I think he's quite smart. He was definitely on his day in that particular race. It was a nice performance. I didn't really start thinking about him for like the RSA or anything like that going forward. It had the whole shape of the race just had a feel for me that it just wasn't. They just weren't up to scratch, really. And that was the sort of the point I was mentioning in the previous video, where I got to the point where I wasn't really happy with the English novice chasers, and I got to this point, I think, and I think it was because Black Op finished so close to him. I'm just trying to. Black Op battled him all the way to the line, didn't he? Yeah, and I'd that was it. He was beaten by 1 3/4 lengths, Black Op, and I'd assessed Black Op throughout the year and just found out how much ground he was actually losing at his fences throughout. So that anything that was really finishing within a couple of lengths of him, I thought it can't be that great if Black Op continues to lose this amount of ground at each fence. And then I just related that back to the Champ race, and thought Champ was valued for much, much more when he beat Black Op. That was the point really for me, that I thought if Black Op's doing that, then Champ's got to be miles ahead of these English novice chasers. So yeah, it was the race really for me revolved around Black Op, obviously post race, but watching it, I thought Slate House was impressive to battle back the way he did.
Yeah, I think probably as like a performance in isolation, he deserved to win the race. He won it nicely enough, but given that it's the Feltham, it's the Counter-Star Novices Chase, we should be looking at the best of the British. We should be looking at RSA hopefuls. We don't know what Champ's going to do this season. I hope he does possibly go for a King George. I think we're all in agreement. If Champ had have run in there, regardless of timings and all that sort of stuff, if Champ had gone in there, he would have won, wouldn't he?
I think so. I don't think Kempton's Champ's track, if I'm going to be honest, because unless his jumping's improved, because at Kempton, if you make it similar with Sandown, the railway fence over the back, if you make a few mistakes at your fences, which Champ is very much likely to do, and lose a bit of ground, then you're kind of always on the back foot and you're always chasing. And a runaway leader at Kempton, as we know, can get away from you. So I'm not entirely convinced until I see him jump. He's been to Henrietta Knights, I think, over the summer to school. So unless that's improved, I don't really think Kempton's going to be his track. Although he is, in terms of a horse, he is a speedy horse. He can go a gallop. So it's just all going to depend on his jumping, really. At that precise time, I would say that his class probably would have got him through. But like I say, it all comes down to jumping at the end of the day, doesn't it? These novice chasers. So
absolutely. And the good thing about that time of year was it was made clear by Nicky Henderson that they were going RSA. They were going to avoid the race at Kempton. They were going to come back and run. I can't remember what it is. The John Franco, or maybe they'd already running that. They had the plan mapped out. Remember, you sent me a message and you were a little bit worried whether they were going to be considering a JLT, maybe, with the fact that they weren't going to be, like he was talking about the trip and all that sort of stuff. And I showed you the history of the line in, especially for him, what he did with Bobsworth and horses like that before. That it takes a certain type of horse, like you've pointed on there, to go around Kempton and do it. Be interesting what they do with Champ this year. I know this is a different point. This is supposed to be a review, but when you get to open company and stay in chases, your options are Haydock, Kempton, the likes, unless you go to those intermediate chases. But yeah, it was one of those races where Counter-Star Novices Chase, I thought it was substandard, which is probably why I thought Danny Whizbang had a chance, but he didn't. Anywho, in Ireland on Boxing Day, there's some unbelievable action. There